Can y'all hear me? Mic check, mic check. Yeah, y'all can hear me. So what the hell's going on? Am I not screen sharing? What up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome, welcome, welcome to another live stream. Appreciate you guys being here. Y'all like the thumbnail? I tried that Chat GPT thing to do the AI thumbnails. So I gotta, I snapped a selfie of myself. And it's funny because when I made the thumbnail and I took the selfie, the original picture is me with that face, and that glare on the right side of my face was actually coming through the window, and that glare was in the photograph. So when Chat GPT made the thumbnail, I guess they put all the fire on the right side, so the glare on my face would like blend in with the fire. And it actually made for a pretty good image. I like it. I think it's dope. I'm gonna do some more like that, but not all of them is gonna have my face on it. I'm just trying the whole put my face on it thing because, well, I don't really do that. I don't really do that. But shout out to everybody that's here. Make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get this thing started. Let's get it started. So, hang on a second. Let me do a quick sound check. All right, we sound good. We sound good. We sound good. And shout out to that brother that reminded me not to cough in the mic, because normally I'd mute the mic and then I'd cough and then I'd unmute real quick because I got a mute button right on the microphone itself. And sometimes I slip up and forget to do it, or sometimes the cough just happens, so I can't really prepare for it properly and like turn away or something. I try to, but yeah, man. So you guys, I gave you guys a rundown about what's happening with Iran. We've been hearing about the protests in Iran and that the people of Iran are, turning up against their government, and the government's killing their own people and all this crap, right? The same nonsense they told us about Gaddafi, the same nonsense they told us about other world leaders that they deposed from power because they didn't want to play ball with the establishment. Well, they're doing the same thing to Iran. They're doing the same thing to Iran, but they want to get rid of Ayatollah Khamenei, because the Ayatollah is not playing ball with Israel. He is ready to move on Israel. And there's been some tough talk back and forth between Trump and the Iranians, but the Iranians, I believe they have a deal with Trump, and they know that Trump isn't going to attack them because Trump already knows what's going on there. And I found a Fox News interview with Brett Baer and the foreign minister of Iran, and he gives a breakdown of what's actually taking place in Iran, what's actually happening there. And his breakdown is actually pretty accurate, or pretty consistent with my analysis, because from the time I heard about Iran threatening Israel, we heard about the mass protests and them trying to get rid of the Ayatollah, right? Thank you, Antar. Appreciate it. They're trying to get rid of the Ayatollah. Well, that can only be for one reason. That's because the Ayatollah has got the crosshair set on Israel. So now Israel's got to turn up in Iran and get the Ayatollah up out of there. You know what I'm saying? But Donnie Trumpstein coming in hot. Trump is a buffoon. Trump definitely kissed the wall. Well, all the presidents have to kiss the wall, just like every undercover narcotics agent has to deal drugs to catch the drug dealers. It's the same shit. And if you can't figure it out, I think, I think that would make you the buffoon, my friend. But nevertheless, let him live. Let him say what he wants. As long as he's not disrespecting me. Everybody has a right to their opinion, and I can't tell him what to think. All I can tell him is maybe you should think. Maybe you should think a little deeper than you're thinking and stop listening to that bullshit you listen to. But, that's all I can say. But he's here, so maybe he wants to be educated. So, Donnie, I appreciate you tapping in, man. I hope you stick around. I hope you stick around and learn something. So, here's what's happening. The Israelis have America held hostage. They have sleeper cells here in America that will carry out mass casualty events if the American government doesn't play ball with Israel. So Trump has to posture himself against Iran and against Russia as if he's their enemies to make it look like he's cool with Israel. But the overall plan is do the tough talking and the beefing with Iran. Some shit's going to pop off between America and Iran, maybe another one of those staged bombings. And Iran's threat was if Trump attacks Iran, Iran will retaliate against Israel. But that's the end goal. The end goal is for Trump to get his perceived enemies to destroy Israel. That's what's about to happen. And this is what all the beefing is about. It's not about Trump actually going to war with Iran, because America will not go to war with Iran. We can't go to war with Iran, because if we go to war with Iran, we'll end up going to war with Russia and China, and we will lose that war. Little do people know, Iran is actually... Yes, Donnie, that's exactly what they want to do, and I'm glad at least you figure that much out. You know what I'm saying? But Trump is helping Trump is actually helping the Ayatollah stay in power, because he offered help to the protesters. The help never came because he's not going to help them, but he has to posture himself as if he's going to, as if he's against the Ayatollah, so the Israelis don't do here what they've done in other countries. Now, when the foreign minister starts having a conversation with Bret Baier, he literally says exactly what I said on the last live stream. And what he said was that, and I'm going to play it for you guys too, but what he said was that their sleeper cells, sleeper terror cells that activated within the country. First, the protests started over the economics, and they were peaceful protests. He said there were 10 days of peaceful protests. And then on day 11, the shooting started because these terror cells activated and they started killing the protesters and posing as government agents, wearing government uniforms and killing the protesters. And the Iranian government responded, and within 3 days had all of them mopped up. And now Iran is at peace again. And he mentioned that they were Daesh-style attacks. And if you guys don't know what Daesh is what the people in the Middle East call ISIS, because ISIS is ran by the Zionists and the Israelis. All the radical Muslims that go out there and bomb shit and kill people, they are ran by the Israeli Mossad. And they use these radical Muslim groups because, well, the Israelis are the Jews, right? So who would ever stop to think that the Jews were behind this? So you use the radical Muslim proxies. You notice when ISIS was tearing up the Middle East, they went from Libya to Egypt to Bahrain, and then they hopped right over Israel and went to Syria. Never touched Israel. That's because Israel was their paymasters. Israel was their bosses. Israel was their support base. But what I told you guys on the show was these are Israeli sleeper cells trying to destabilize Iran from within, because Israel cannot fight a war openly against Iran because the U.S. can't help them. And so while the Israeli sleeper cells are in Iran killing civilians, yes, Iraq. Thank you, Donnie. While they're in, while the terrorist sleeper cells are in Iran killing innocent protesters, the fake news, which is Zionist run over here, is telling us that the Ayatollah is the one doing all of that, which is a flat out lie. And it's literally the exact same lie they used to get us to go against Gaddafi. It's the same lie. And as soon as they started telling that lie, I immediately knew that what they're telling us is happening in Iran is not what's actually happening in Iran. So if you want to go back and watch my last show, it was like the second half of the last live stream. You'll see my breakdown. It's the Israelis trying to turn up in Iran. Iran is crawling with Zionist Israeli sleeper cells. Okay. But excuse me. They're trying to destabilize Iran so Iran has less of a capability of attacking Israel. That's what it's all about. It's about trying to defend Israel by weakening their enemies from within. But it's not going to work because the Iranians already shut that shit down. And the people who the Iranian government was actually killing were the terrorists in the sleeper cells. Now, when I say Israel has America held hostage, right? When you listen to the Iranian foreign minister describe what those terror cells were doing in Iran, the Israelis have the capability of doing the exact same thing here in America. And this is why when we saw those migrant caravans coming across the border, there were so many groups of military-age males. These were the sleeper cells. These were, I'll answer your question in a second, Donnie. These were the sleeper cells. And their job was to lie in wait and arm up because they're in America and they can get guns. So their job was to lie in wait, arm themselves, and when the orders come down to take to the streets and start killing Americans, they would have done the exact same thing that they're doing in Iran. They would have been doing the same thing to us. There was an incident right before the Venezuela thing happened with Maduro, right before Maduro was captured, where a large stockpile of NYPD police uniforms were found on the side of the road somewhere in New York City. That is a scary thing when you really understand what these terror cells are capable of. When they tore up Libya, when ISIS went into Libya to go kill Gaddafi, the first attacks that they launched was against police stations and military installations. And they stole weapons, they stole ammunition, and they also stole uniforms. This is why when I see the Antifa thugs attacking the police stations, it scares me, because that's where they stockpile the uniforms. And Antifa did wear police uniforms, Capitol Police uniforms, on January 6th and tear gassed innocent people in the crowd. That was Antifa. They even had a flyer put out before January 6th, telling their comrades that to dress like Trump supporters, and if you have a convincing police uniform, wear that too. Well, what police are in the Capitol, in DC? The Capitol Police. So that's what they wore. But when Trump launched the mass deportations and he started going after the criminal aliens first, those were the military-age males who were members of the sleeper cells that would activate and start killing people in the American streets when the order was given. But they've lost that capability thanks to Trump and the mass deportations. And this is why we're seeing all these big anti-ICE protests being ran by the Zionists, because they want to stop ICE from removing their operatives. They're losing manpower, and they don't have the capability to launch these large-scale attacks anymore. They've been essentially weakened. And I believe those police uniforms that were dumped in the street were either dumped there to signal to the patriots that, hey, the terrorists that were going to wear these uniforms, they're not here anymore. Or they were put out there for the terrorists to come find, take them home, put them on, and go stage attacks dressed as the NYPD. It's the same playbook. And who are the masters of infiltration? Who are better at infiltration than the Khazarian Mafia or the Zionists? They are the kings of infiltration. That's what they do. And they infiltrated Iran, and they tried to destabilize Iran, and they lost. Now, to Donnie's question, that goes right to Donnie Trumpstein's question. He says, Citizen Man, what's your take? Do you think we are going to hit Iran, and what will be the outcome? I think that, because the last time Trump hit Iran, right? And this is what I'm going off of. The last time Trump hit Iran, it was staged. The 3 nuclear sites that Trump bombed, I did a whole live stream, and it might be on YouTube, but I know it's definitely on Rumble. The 3 nuclear sites that Trump bombed, when you go look up each one of those nuclear sites, you'll find a couple years prior that the Iranians had built new sites and moved all their operations from those old sites to the new sites. So Trump bombed empty, abandoned nuclear facilities that were no longer operational. He just demolished them for them. And I believe that there is a very good possibility that Trump may launch an attack on Iran again, but it'll be just as staged as the first attack. But the reason for it, and this gets to the outcome part. So to answer your question in short, yes, I think Trump is going to hit Iran, but it's going to be another staged attack. The outcome is going to be Iran retaliating against Israel. And then we'll see Israel get leveled and get treated the way they've been treating the Palestinians in Gaza. But it will be at the hands of the Iranians with the backing of the Russians. Well, Anna P., yes, I am an outsider, but I'm well studied and I'm well versed, and I actually listen to people from the country. And what the Iranian I have the video. I'm going to play the actual video. But what the Iranian foreign minister describes in this interview is exactly in line with not only my analysis, but what we've seen the Israelis do in past events, in previous destabilization operations, and they are more than capable of doing it here in America. So if you have a problem with me being an outsider speaking about Iran, then maybe you just came to the wrong channel. I don't even know how the fuck you got here. But what I'm saying, right, and listen closely, what I'm saying aligns perfectly with what the Iranian foreign minister says. So I can't be that far off the mark, although I'm an outsider. I can be an outsider and still know what I'm talking about. Just because I'm an outsider doesn't mean I don't know. Both of my parents lived in the Middle East for several years. That's how I knew what Daesh meant. Most Americans don't know that in the Middle East, they call ISIS Daesh. I think it's like Daesh or some shit. It's like dash. My grandfather was killed by the regime, and my family was told that it was a virtue killing because Muslim killed a Christian. Yes, they have their share of problems over there. They most definitely do, and I'm not downplaying it. But what I'm saying is the people of Iran should have the right to decide who they want to run their country and not fucking Israel. That's the whole point of what I'm saying, and I'm sure you would agree with that. But when you have Israeli sleeper cells trying to overthrow the government of Iran and killing the Iranian people in the process to blame it on the Iranian government, that's problematic. You know what, Anna? I got to get you the fuck out of here. You got to go. I literally just sat here and told you I'm going to play the video of the Iranian foreign minister saying the exact same thing. I don't give a fuck if you're from over there. You ran from over there and came over here. So guess what? You're an outsider too. So shut the fuck up. You sound dumb. No amount of research. That's the whole point of doing research. And part of doing research is hearing from people on the ground, people involved, and people in it. That's like telling a homicide detective, well, you don't know that the murder suspect committed that murder because you're an outsider. How fucking stupid is that? How stupid is, you see how dumb these people are? No wonder their country's a fucking shithole. If that's the mentality, Jesus Christ. Nobody says that about a homicide detective because they have to do research. And a lot of these homicide detectives are white people from outside the black community, but they do research in the black community to find out who killed who. And they're outsiders. So to sit here and tell me no amount of research don't mean nothing is idiotic. It's fucking idiotic. If you're so concerned about Iran, take your ass back to Iran and do something about it. Don't come over here telling me what I can and can't say or what I should and shouldn't say. Don't do that. Well, Anna's no longer here. She's no longer with us. She's been banished to the shadow realm because I'm not going to tolerate that bullshit. Because what she said, in her response, she completely she did the bitch shit. She did the shit that all hoes do. She completely glossed over the fact that I am going to play the Iranian foreign minister's interview after I had already listened to it. And he is not a fucking outsider. It's the Zionists. The Zionists are the ones causing all this trouble. Israel are the ones causing all this trouble. Terrorism and turmoil in the Middle East did not reach the level that it's reached in recent years until Israel was established. Yeah, she completely glossed over it because she just has to be right. She can't humble herself and say, you know what? Let me hear this man out because he says he does research. And if she was familiar with my content, obviously she's not. She would understand what I mean when I say research because I do very deep research and I look at both sides. And I'm not going to sit here and make up theories based on absolutely nothing and just pull shit out of my ass. I'm referencing previous events in other countries where these Israeli sleeper cells under the name of ISIS, posing as radical Muslims, did the exact same thing and literally used the exact same strategy that the Iranian foreign minister is describing that happened in his country. So I'm not wrong. So you can call me whatever you want. You can call me an outsider, whatever the fuck you want, but I'm not wrong. So save that bullshit. If you're here to listen, listen. If you don't agree, that's fine. But if you're here to listen, then listen. Like the brother Donnie Trumpstein. Shout out to Donnie Trumpstein. He came in hot, saying some liberal bullshit about Trump, repeating the mainstream media narrative about Trump being a buffoon and all this. Show me a buffoon that made $1 billion on his own. Show me a buffoon that's done that. You know what I'm saying? But we had a conversation and we actually found something we agreed on. Because that's how communication works. But you're coming up in here with the bitch babble. Well, we can't have a conversation because you're bitch babbling. You're not saying anything relevant. You're just trying to insult me and downplay my intelligence and downplay my research when my research is based on your fucking people from your fucking country. Trump's not a felon. The case was thrown out, Kobe. That whole case was bullshit. But let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. Yeah, I don't know what that bitch problem was. She was probably one of them fucking Israelis talking about I'm Iranian and this and that. Shut the fuck up. I don't know you. You know what you are to me? You are a font on a computer screen. That's what you are. So shut the fuck up. If you don't have anything constructive to say, like if you're from Iran and you're an insider as I'm an outsider, why are you in my chat of my live stream talking shit and you not doing your own live stream and putting out the information that you don't think I know? If you know more than me, go broadcast it and stop fucking coming to my broadcast and telling me how much you fucking know. Does that make sense? Would that not be the proper thing to do? I mean, that's literally what I did. When I started making videos, because I started seeing how the Democratic Party was lying and deceiving everybody. And I started seeing how the Republican Party was bending over and letting them do it. And I started seeing these conservative commentators who should be calling out the Republicans and the Democrats for the shit that they were doing. And they were siding with the Republicans while calling out the Democrats. They sided with crooked police because they backed the blue and all this shit just because that's the conservative standpoint. And I didn't like it and I didn't agree with it. So you know what I did? Well, let me start by telling you what I didn't do. I didn't go to their shows, get in their chat, and start proclaiming myself to be some wealth of knowledge that exceeds their limited thinking. You know, I didn't come in there trying to prop myself up above them. You know what I did? I turned on the damn camera. I started from scratch and I started speaking. And my channels had grown to monumental proportions until the censorship started to hit. So don't come to my show acting like you know more than me and trying to insult me with your infinite wisdom. Go make your own show. You might blow up bigger than me because you won't be shadow banned because your name's not Citizen Man. And you might make a couple dollars while you're in the process. So you get to kill two birds. You get to share all your infinite wisdom and you get to make some money while you do it. And you don't have to come to my chat, make yourself look like an ass and get excoriated and get roasted. Because I will roast you. Yeah, fuck them Somalis. So the Somalis are not innocent. And if you're an American and you support the Somalis, you must like getting robbed. Let me Kobe says, I don't know how you found me either. But at the end of it all, you're going to be glad you did. I'll tell you that right now. Fuck them Somalis. Those Somalis have been living in Minnesota since the 90s, right? So they came in 91. They started coming in 91. So let's say by 95, they had their whole Somali community established, right? No, fuck that. 2000. They had their Somali community established. Do you know that 15 years later, after 2010, let's start with 2010. I mean, not 2000, 25 years later, after all those Somalis moved to Minnesota and created their own community, do you know that 78% of Somali households are collecting welfare right now, still to this day? So these motherfuckers had 25 to 30 years to get their shit together, and 78% of them still haven't done it. And the ones who appear to have done it, a large percentage of them did it through defrauding the American government and stealing taxpayers' money. They're not innocent. And I'm glad that Trump revoked their temporary protected status, because now they all got to get the fuck out. And if you think they are innocent, you are sadly mistaken, my friend, because they are not. They are some scheming ass, scamming ass motherfuckers. And nobody likes being robbed. And I'm not saying this to insult you. I'm just saying this to show you how misguided you are in that thought process. And just to let you know, that mentality of the Somalis are innocent. We had, defending the Somalis and defending the illegal aliens, all that is being brought to you by the Democratic Party and the Zionist media, who want you to be subjugated. Listen, and if you're black, Brent Math, I don't know if you're black or white or whatever, but if you are black, you should be twice as insulted, because the same Democrats that's been promising black people reparations for thousands of years and they still ain't got it. He said, yes, I'm from Chad. Oh, no wonder Africans going to defend the Africans. But listen, but African, not black. Gotcha. Not black American, because black implies American. Okay. Fair enough. But black Americans, what these Somalis have been doing and what these Democrats have been doing with these illegal aliens was a slap in the face to black Americans, because for eons, Democrats have been promising black Americans reparations. And when it doesn't happen and they're questioned about it, they say, oh, we don't have the funding. We don't have the funding to do that. But then they open up the border, they bring in their sleeper cells, they bring in all the illegals, and all of a sudden they magically find the money to give these people $5,000 to $15,000 a month in food stamps, cash assistance, housing assistance, childcare assistance, healthcare assistance, etc. I'm talking billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars, dished out to foreign nationals by the Democratic Party after snubbing black people on reparations by telling them they didn't have the money. And Brent Math, if you are an honest man and you are not living off government taxpayer money and you are not in America scamming people and you're making an honest living, you should be insulted by what these Somalis are doing. Because what these Somalis are doing is they are painting all African immigrants in a bad light. And I say immigrants because the Somalis were given legal status when they came here, that temporary protected status. They're not illegal aliens. They become illegal aliens once the temporary protected status is revoked. So they are now, but they didn't come here as illegal aliens. So when I say immigrants, that's what I mean. Africans living in this country with legal status. And the scams that those Somalis are running is making the rest of America look at all African immigrants as if they're scammers. And that should be insulting to you as an honest man. Yeah, I don't know about Steven Crowder. I don't listen to those fuckers. I don't listen to any of them. And I don't take any of them seriously. But so I can't really give you an opinion on somebody I really don't pay attention to, right? But as an African, I think it's more important for you to side with the Americans in calling out this fraud and establishing yourself as somebody who is not complicit in this fraud. But if you run around saying, oh, the Somalis are innocent, guess what? There's a stereotype in America about Africans being scammers. So the minute you of African heritage living in America start siding with the Somali scammers, we're just going to look at you as another scammer too. And if you run a business where you deal with people's financial information, that could potentially hurt your business. So so not only are you siding with the thieves, but you're also making yourself look like a thief and painting yourself in a negative light simultaneously by doing that. Now, here's the thing. I'm the type of guy, I call it down the middle. And if those Somalis were innocent, I would say they're innocent. And I probably wouldn't advocate for them staying here in America, but I definitely wouldn't jump on the train and say, yeah, burn them at the stake. No, I wouldn't do that. But they're not innocent. The fraud has been discovered. Hundreds of people, Somalis and Americans alike involved, have been indicted. The entire state of Minnesota, the entire state government of Minnesota is under federal investigation right now for that fraud. And they're still finding more fraud. So it's kind of hard to say that they're innocent, especially when one of the fake daycares that's been collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars from the state of Minnesota, they get they get a letter from the federal government demanding or sequestering or requesting, I should say, requesting documentation that any legitimate business would have, right? Like the student attendees roll, their budget, their operating licenses and that type of shit, right? Like proof that they're an actual daycare, but they're not an actual daycare, so they don't have any of this information, any of this documentation. And this motherfucker with a $2,500 pair of eyeglass frames on his face, on his light bulb head ass face, gets on TV and lies and says thieves broke into the daycare and stole all their paperwork. If you believe that lie for 1 second, you are a fool. You are a goddamn fool. And I don't want to see my people get fooled. The American people have been fooled for way too long, and it's about time that we wake up and start calling the shit for what it is. The Somalis are scamming. They're scammers. That's what they do, and they've been allowed to do it. And the reason why the government of Minnesota has been allowing them to do it, let me put it in perspective for you. Well, let me say this first, because the government officials who have been protecting and allowing this fraud, they too have been benefiting greatly from this fraud. So all that money that the Somalis was stealing, some of that money was finding its way into the pockets of the politicians who are now defending them. Because their money train is about to come to a screeching halt. Their money train just got derailed and they're trying to get it back on track so they can keep the money flowing. So so let me put it in perspective for you. When Kamala Harris was running for president in 2024 against Donald Trump, she chose that retarded, broke wrist imbecile by the name of Tim Walz, who was the governor of Minnesota. Complete moron. And she chose him as her running mate because he was the highest bidder. He came up with the most campaign money in the shortest period of time. In fact, the day his name was brought up as a possible vice presidential pick, he raised $33 million in campaign donations in a 24-hour span, which is a historic record in American politics. Do you know where that money came from? It came from them scamming ass Somalis. And that right there is proof positive that the government of Minnesota is complicit in the fraud because they too are benefiting from those illicit funds. And I don't know how the hell we got on to talking about Somalia, but we're supposed to be talking about Iran. Excuse me. So what's happening in Iran is exactly what I told you guys on the last show. The Israeli sleeper cells are turning up, trying to destabilize Iran from within to thwart their possible attack on Israel. But I believe now that it's being admitted that it's the Israelis that were in Iran killing their citizens, that is an act of war. So that alone now will give Iran the green light to act act aggressively against Israel. And I believe they will. And the foreign minister also said something that was very important. He said the terrorists wanted to drive up the body count. They wanted to induce as much death as possible because the more people that die, Trump said if more people died, he would intervene. And that's what they wanted. They wanted Trump to intervene. But Trump's not going to go in there and remove the Ayatollah because he's friends with the Ayatollah. And he's friends with Vladimir Putin. But he's enemies with Israel. But he has to pretend to be their friend because Israel will kill American citizens on his watch and they'll blame him for it, just like they're doing in Iran and blaming the Ayatollah. And there's enough Americans here in this country that are thoroughly convinced that Trump is a bad guy. So once the mainstream media started spinning that narrative, people are going to believe it. And that will help prop up the establishment and put their puppets back in power. Because if the one guy that's at war with the establishment and trying to dismantle the establishment from within gets removed and demonized and nobody believes him and people don't vote for him anymore and he can't get that position of power anymore, guess what? The establishment gets to reestablish itself. And then we're back under Zionist control like we've been this whole time. So you heard what I said on the stream about the Zionist terror cells turning up in Iran, trying to kill as many people to blame the government. Listen to the Iranian foreign minister tell you. Don't just listen to me. Listen to him tell you. So I'm going to go ahead and run this.
Joining me is Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Mr. Foreign Minister, thank you for the time. I'd like to start about the situation on the ground. There are reports, sir, that anywhere from 2,500 to more than 12,000 protesters in various cities have been killed by the regime. How many people have been killed?
Well, thank you, Brett, for having me. Demonstrations started on 28 December, yes, for the economic shortcomings, and for 10 days it was peaceful, and the government engaged with the protesters and with their leaders and tried to solve their problems. Yes, for 10 days it was peaceful, legal demonstrations and protests for economic shortcomings. But after that 10 days, for 3 days we had completely different story. A terrorist operation, when terrorist elements led from outside, entered these, protests and started to shoot, police forces, police officers, and security forces.
You see what he said? Outside forces came in, and who did they start shooting first? The police and the security forces. That was to weaken Iran's defenses so they could move on to attacking the people. But let's go.
And there were terrorist cells. They came in. They used Daesh-style terrorist, operations.
Did you catch that? He said they used Daesh-style terrorist operations. That's ISIS. That's who that is. Those are Daesh is ISIS. And they are special. Their specialty is overthrowing governments from within.
Got police officers, burned them alive, they beheaded them, and they started shooting at police officers and also to the people. So as a result, for 3 days, we had, in fact, fighting against terrorists and not, with the protesters. It was.
Did I not tell you that? Well, on the last show, I told you guys that. The fake news is telling you that the Ayatollah and his government are killing the protesters. And here is the foreign minister explaining exactly what happened. They weren't killing the protesters. They were killing the terrorists that were killing the protesters. That's what they were doing.
Completely a different story. The reason I have to explain, and this is important, why they started to shoot at people. For one reason, they wanted to increase the number of deaths. Why? Because President Trump has said that if there are killings, he would intervene. And they wanted to drag him into this conflict. And that was exactly an Israeli plot. They wanted to drag the President of the United States in this conflict. So they started to increase the number of deaths by killing ordinary people, by killing police officers, by starting a kind of, fighting inside the different cities.
Mr. Foreign Minister, you're saying that these killings, these deaths are at the hands of foreign elements inside your country, not by the Iranian regime. That's not what we're being told when we get people to talk to us on the ground. The internet has been shut off, but occasionally turns back on. And we do hear from people on the ground who tell us various stories. Witnesses spoke of seeing snipers positioned on rooftops in downtown Tehran, firing into crowds of peaceful protests, turning abruptly into scenes of carnage, panic as bullets pierced through people's heads and torsos, sending bodies toppling to the ground, and an emergency room treating 19 gunshot patients in a single hour. The regime is on a killing spree, said one protester. And
you can't take these people's word for it because we don't know who these so-called protesters are. Because the terrorists that are turning up and killing the Iranian people, they're there posing as protesters too. Some are posing as protesters. Some are posing as government forces. That's how they do it. And the ones that pose as the protesters are relaying the intel to the ones wearing the government uniforms that are actually going to do the killing. They relay the intel to the shooters to tell them where the crowds are going to be, where the protests are going to be held, and where to set up your sniper nest so you can start picking these people off. So, and remember, Fox News, although they tell a little bit more truth than CNN and MSNBC, and they tend to be more conservative leaning, they are Zionist media too. It's called controlled opposition.
we've seen the video of body bags stacking up. You are saying that all of this is because you're not in control of your country and foreign elements are killing people inside your country?
No, I'm telling you that it was a fighting between our security forces and terrorist elements who had a plan to create a big number of killings in order to provoke President Trump to enter into this conflict and start a new war against Iran. And that was exactly an Israeli plot. The footages that you mentioned have not been seen in Iran. I have to tell you.
Damn commercials. I hate these commercials. Let me just let it run. But you hear what the man's saying. That's exactly what I said. It's Israelis.
Campaign is.
It's Israelis, and they're doing the exact same thing they were doing with ISIS. And they're trying to blame the government in order to have an excuse to get rid of that government, because if the Zionists could put in their own puppet government, then Israel is safe from Iran. But right now, Israel is not safe from Iran, and they're using this tactic because Israel does not have missiles for their Iron Dome system, their Iron Dome missile defense system. So they can't defend themselves from incoming missiles. So they're using this tactic instead, because normally they would launch missiles and go in and blow up shit in Iran. And then Iran would respond by launching missiles at them, but their Iron Dome would stop the missiles. Well, last June, there was no Iron Dome to stop the Iranian missiles, and the missiles landed. So now Iran is well aware that Israel is vulnerable. All he needs is a trigger event, which would be a staged attack by the U.S. military on Iran, and then boom, Israel gets leveled. But let's continue with the video.
You can see in Iran, I have to tell you that a misinformation campaign is going on at the same time.
And you're suggesting that it's Israel and Mossad acting like Iranian forces, shooting the Iranian people to make casualties to spur on the action of President Trump. I'm just saying there's a lot of people that don't believe that, Mr. Foreign Minister.
No, Mossad has already confessed that.
They may be on the ground, sir, but as far
You see how Brett Baer just glossed over it when the man said the Mossad has already confessed that's what they're doing? Because these people, they're so wicked, they commit this evil and then they brag about it. But their controlled media, they do a great job at covering it up and acting like the fake narrative is what the truth is. But what this Iranian foreign minister is saying, I believe him. And I believe him because I saw it myself in my own observations of what was taking place, the surrounding events that preceded these so-called deadly protests, and the posturing against Israel and the weakening of Israel. But Trump can't attack Israel because Israel will retaliate against the American people. And if there's millions or hundreds of thousands of American citizens getting gunned down in the streets in mass casualty events all across the country, and it happens on Trump's watch, Trump will be blamed for it. And he doesn't want that. So he's going to take a different route. He's going to pretend to play ball with Israel. And he won't attack them, but he'll let their enemies attack them. And that's the way it's going to go down.
As far as them killing hundreds and hundreds of people to make it look like you did, it does not appear in the video that we get out that this is a full level of calm. It appears that protests continue in a number of different cities. The exiled Iranian crown prince, talking to people on the ground, said this.
About 12,000 plus.
12,000 plus.
That's what we get so far. It might be more, but that's the minimum number that we know so far.
Don't that dude got the Khazarian face? Don't he got like a, doesn't he have like a similar look to Netanyahu? I'm just saying. And this is supposed to be the one of the crown princes of the former Iranian regime. And he is the one helping to spread the narrative because he's the one in line to take power in Iran. If Ayatollah Khomeini gets removed, it's going to be him to fill that spot. So, of course, he's going to go along with the narrative. Of course, he's going to try to push the propaganda and defend the terrorists that are actually killing people because it works in his favor. He has something to gain from lying, so he's going to lie. And, man, he's got that Netanyahu face. Hint, hint.
Killed by the regime. This is not arrested. This is killed.
We are talking about using military weapons, AK-47s, armored trucks to shoot to kill unarmed protesters. Their bodies are being picked up by bulldozers, and they charge each family for the bullet to be able to just retrieve the remains. It's abhorrent what's happening.
You're denying that that's happening, or you're saying it's Israel and Mossad?
Well, we are on the ground.
Yes, it's Israel and Mossad. That's what he's saying. He's saying he's not denying that it's happening. He's denying that it's the Iranian government doing it. And here's the thing. If, in fact, the Iranian government was doing this, they would have done this a long time ago. But it's the Mossad. It's Israel. That's who's doing it. They've done it in several other countries the exact same way.
In Iran, those claims are baseless. There is no.
And shout out to my brother Antara Moody for the Cash App. He says for the info. Hold on. Oh shit! What the hell did I just do? Now I gotta log into my Cash App. I was trying to read it off the notifications. He says for the info war. Appreciate that, my brother. Appreciate that support.
Proof of that. the number of deaths, although they tried hard to increase the number of deaths, are only hundreds. The exact figure would be announced very soon, perhaps tonight by us.
So now they're telling the same kind of lies that they were telling during COVID, and the same kind of lies that the Israelis tell. They're trying to exaggerate the death number, and the foreign minister is saying it's hundreds, not thousands. I believe him. I believe him.
Our authorities.
So you're saying it's less than 1,000 people?
No, hundreds of people. I certainly, deny the numbers and figures they have said. It is an exaggeration. It is a misinformation campaign only to find excuses to do another aggression against Iran. I can tell you that now it is 4 days that everything is calm. There is no demonstration, there is no unrest, nothing in Iran for the past 4 days. Yes, there has been millions of people today for funerals, and 2 days ago, a big rally in support of the government and of the system.
And that's literally the exact same thing we saw in Libya. While our fake news, while ISIS was over there killing the Libyan citizens, and Gaddafi was using his security forces to defend the Libyan citizens, the citizens of Libya were holding rallies in support of Gaddafi. I mean, it wouldn't make sense for the people to go out and hold rallies in support of their country's leader if the country's leader is using his security forces to kill them. That would make no sense. But you're hearing the talk, but we're seeing the visuals. The talk is saying that the government is killing their own people, but then when we look at the visuals, we see the people in support of the government. While the government was claiming that it was the Israelis killing our people, and we were defending the people. So if these people are holding a big rally in support of the government, it would seem like the latter would be true. The government was defending the people.
So people are on the streets, but in support of the Islamic Republic.
Wow,
so
that's not what we hear when we hear people on the ground.
I can refer you to the tweets and sayings and interviews by Israeli officials, American officials who have claimed themselves that Mossad agents are inside Iran, in the Iranian streets, in Tehran streets. Just look at the X, account of Mossad in Persia, who said that their agents are in Iran and they are doing their job.
Okay, I can't push back about where Mossad agents are or not. I can say if anybody is taunting President Trump, it is the supreme leader who took to X and posted this, saying for days now, calling President Trump a tyrant who will be overthrown. Why, if you're saying the Israeli outside forces inside your country are doing this, why would the supreme leader himself take to X and taunt the president of the United States?
Well, we were in the middle of a war started against us, and the rhetorics are quite normal in any war. We have many kind of threats by President Trump, by other American officials, by Europeans who are talking about Iranian, things in Iran. So we consider these 3 days, 8 January to 10, which we faced with a vast terrorism operation as the continuation of 12-day war that's were imposed on us by Israelis and Americans. So the 13th day of war was 8 January. That was the continuation of the war. So we were in the middle of the war. And now, after 3 days of terrorist operation, now there is a calm. We are in full control. And let's,
You heard what he just said? It's been 3 days of fighting, of the killing, and now since then they've had 4 days of peace, which means they shut down the terrorist operations. Because if it was the government killing the people, they would have continued killing the people. Remember when the Bolsheviks in Russia killed tens of millions of Christians? That extermination operation lasted for months, if not years. So how is it that in 3 days the government starts killing a bunch of their people and then they just stop? That wouldn't make any sense unless they were fighting against outside forces who they've defeated. And now there's peace again. And again, the tough talk and the posturing between Trump and Ayatollah Khomeini is to make Israel feel safe and confident that America is on their side when we're not. And they're going to keep acting up. And now that they've been caught killing Iranian citizens, Israel's cooked. They are cooked because Trump's not going to help them. My brother Tom, he was asking me if Putin is going to attack Israel. No, Putin is beefing with the European Union. Putin is going to handle the European Union. Iran is going to handle Israel. And Trump is handling the drug cartels here in the West. Those are the three main players of the deep state and the elite control system. The European Union, Israel, and the cartels in the Americas. So Trump's handling the Americas, Putin's going to handle Europe, and Iran is going to handle Israel. That's the way it's going to go.
Hope that wisdom would prevail and we don't go for a high level of tension, which could be disastrous for everybody.
Are you moving forward with hangings of some of the protesters, or at least one of the protesters?
No, I haven't heard.
And if there are hangings and executions, you know who's going to be getting executed? The agent provocateurs, the infiltrators, the ones that are carrying out the attacks, or that were carrying out the attacks against the people.
No, any
Protesters?
No, I haven't heard about that, and there is no any hanging today or tomorrow or whatever. That's
Friday.
You know, I can tell you, I'm confident about that. There is no plan for hanging at all.
Okay, well, you've heard the president's talk, President Trump, and you've heard his concern about crossing this red line, and you've heard him shut off communications with you because he's seen what he's seen and heard what he's heard on the ground. In fact, he was asked about this possible hanging and what the death he's seeing.
And if they hang him, you're going to see some things that I don't know what where you come from and what your thought process is, but you'll perhaps be very happy.
What do you mean by that?
We will take very strong action. If they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not going to work out good.
How do you read the president's comments over the past few days?
Well, first of all, hanging is out of the question, as I said. This is another piece of misinformation campaign that they have started to provoke President Trump and to drag him into this this question. And
And you see how Trump is talking like that, but the Iranian foreign minister isn't really like attacking Trump that much? Did you peep that? How he said this is misinformation that they are using to provoke President Trump? And he didn't say, well, President Trump shouldn't be posturing himself that way, and he shouldn't be doing this, and he's wrong for this. No, he's saying President Trump is being deceived. So even in his response to the tough talk, he's still quasi-defending Trump, which should tell you something. And what it should tell you is there's an alliance there. This is strategic. This is all strategic to get Israel shut down. And it's going to happen.
which could have disastrous consequences. And on your first point that you mentioned, that he cut any communication with Iran, this is not the first time. You remember that we were negotiating in June when they decided to attack us. We were in the middle of negotiations. We had 5 rounds of negotiations between me and Steve Witkoff, and we had already fixed the 6th round for 15 June when in 2 days before that, they attacked us.
Because you came on this show and you said you were never going to reduce legitimate enrichment. You were never going to drop it down. You also talked about continuing a ballistic missile program. Is that continuing today? That's why the president said he was moving forward on the nuclear program that was expanding.
No, both enrichment and our defense capabilities are our legitimate rights. No, as a full and committed member of NPT, we have every right to do enrichment for peaceful purposes. And you cannot tell another country that you shouldn't exercise your right, otherwise you will be attacked.
Yeah. But Mr. Foreign Minister, we talked about this months ago. Are you open to direct talks with the Trump administration to try to find a solution that could de-escalate heightened regional tension after all that's happened?
Iran is still insisting on its peaceful nuclear program, including enrichment, but our position has not changed. We are still, committed not to go for nuclear weapons, but we are not ready to give up our legitimate right for peaceful use of nuclear technology, including enrichment.
Legitimate peaceful purposes for a nuclear program usually are not buried a mile down deep. And that is where the concern was.
President Trump proved to be against diplomacy when he attacked us in June, and when now he decided to cut any communication. So if there is any real interest to engage into, to promote understanding and to understand what's going on really on the ground, he has to pay attention to the realities and not to the misinformation provided to him by those who want to drag him into another war.
You see, and again, he's defending Trump without directly defending Trump, and he's saying this isn't Trump's doing. Trump's not the one creating the tension. Trump's being deceived and he's being misled, essentially, which on the surface would appear true, but Trump knows what he's doing, and he knows that they're lying to him, and he knows what's really going on in Iran. But speaking of the communications thing and the communications getting cut, now there's been reports that the Iranian government is actually going out and arresting, beating, and even in some cases killing people that are using Starlink. And it's being broadcast as if the Iranian government just is so dead set on their people not having internet that anybody using the internet now is going to get killed. But that's not the case. Starlink is being used as a marker now. And that's what caused Ayatollah Khamenei to shut off the internet, cut off the internet in his country. Because remember, when the whole shit with Gaza was going down, remember Elon Musk went to Israel right near northern Gaza and set up Starlink, and it was passed off by Trump as if they were giving Israel new internet capabilities, when in fact what the Starlink was meant to do was to provide internet service to people in Gaza, because there were a lot of people taking cell phone videos of the genocide that the Israelis were carrying out. But because the Israelis destroyed all of the Palestinians' communications infrastructure in the beginning of the genocide, all the videos that these people were taking, they didn't have cell service to send the videos out and post them on social media. So when Elon Musk went to Israel and established Starlink, the coverage area also covered Gaza. And then we started seeing all these videos of the terroristic shit that the IDF was doing in Gaza. So the Israelis have access to Starlink. The Iranians do not have access to Starlink. So when you hear the reports of the Iranian government hunting down people using Starlink, just know this: Starlink is the marker, because you wouldn't have Starlink or access to Starlink if you are a legitimate Iranian citizen. But if you are an Israeli infiltrator that's working with a network of other infiltrators and you desperately need communications, you're going to use Starlink to communicate if that's the only carrier available. So again, it appears like Trump and Elon Musk is helping out the protesters by giving them Starlink so they can communicate and organize. But really, them having Starlink is causing them to mark themselves as Zionist infiltrators, because they would be the only ones in the Middle East that would have access to Starlink. So that's the marker to let the Iranian government know that this person is either a foreign infiltrator or a collaborator of the foreign infiltrators. And that's why Ayatollah Khomeini cut off the internet. That's why he did it. He cut the internet so only the operatives would have internet access. So once you get discovered by the Iranian government that you have internet access by way of Starlink, well, you're now a Mossad agent. You're going down. Sam I Am says, this is all a stage. I think there's a bigger agenda behind all of this, a one world government by 2030. Well, you're right about some of it being the stage. The beef between Trump and Russia and Trump and Iran, that's the stage. And the bigger agenda of the one world government by 2030, that's the agenda that Israel and their counterparts all across the world in these foreign governments are pushing. Remember, Trump is pushing sovereignty. Trump is America first. Trump don't want to be a part of that one world shit. Trump just pulled America out of 65 foreign organizations that were tied to the UN. Trump defunded the World Health Organization. So Trump is trying to keep us out of that one world government, while Israel and the European Union is trying to drag us into that one world government. So that's the bigger agenda, but there's an even bigger agenda than the one world government. And that big agenda is eliminating all three of the power players who are assisting these governments in pushing international law in these sovereign nations. That would be the drug cartels over here in the West. That will be in South America, Central America, and even in North America. That's what, and the Caribbean, of course. That's what Trump's taking care of. Then you got the ones in Europe, in the European Union. They're the players that are controlling the legislation coming out of the United Nations. Those guys are under threat now with the Greenland thing from the United States and from Russia. And then you got Israel, who basically controls the whole board, because they control the media and they control the pedophile rings where all these politicians who happen to be perverts like to go and frequent and get themselves caught on camera and blackmailed. And the bigger agenda than the one world government agenda is to eliminate the drug cartels who control the politicians here in the West, eliminate the European Union who control the legislation being written and brought out by the UN, and destroy Israel, who controls all the other politicians around the world by way of blackmail. And they control the banking system too. And all this posturing between Trump and Iran, it's all going to lead to Iran launching a savage attack against Israel, and the whole world watching in awe. And the media is going to go crazy. And they're going to try to start hyping Americans up to be mad at Iran and side with Israel and pray for Israel because they're God's people and all this bullshit. And it won't work. And you know why it won't work? Because for the last 2.5 years, they've been ruthlessly genociding men, women, and children over in Gaza. And the whole world was watching. And everybody, the vast majority of people, whether you're a liberal, a conservative, Trump supporter, or Trump hater, one thing we can all come together on is watching the fireworks when Iran levels Israel. That's the play that's going to bring the whole world together. And Donald Trump allowing it to happen is going to get a lot of people that hate Trump that say, oh, he kissed the wall, and people like that. It's going to get them to really open their eyes and see what's going on. Because if more Americans heard this foreign minister's interview where he talked about how these terrorists took to the streets and started killing the protesters to blame the government. That could very well happen here in America. And you could be one of those innocent civilians that gets killed by an infiltrator just so you could be another body on the, you know what I'm saying? Be another body on the death count, on the death toll. So this foreign minister, I believe him. I believe him because what he's saying is more consistent with what we've seen in the past and what we're seeing now. And what these so-called protesters and people on the ground that Fox News claim that they talk to, I don't believe a fucking word any of those people say, because there's no facts to back up what they're saying. They're just saying it, and they're constantly repeating it in hopes that people pick up on it and start believing it. But it's a lie. And I believe what this foreign minister is saying is the absolute truth, because that's what they do. That is their playbook. But their plan is failing, because little do we know, the Iranian government, the Iranian military is actually one of the strongest in the world. They're not up to par with the U.S., Canada, the U.S., China, and Russia, but they're pretty good weapons makers because they sell a lot of weapons to Russia, believe it or not. I thought it was Russia selling weapons to them, but it's the other way around. They sell military equipment and weapons to Russia. So Russia is definitely going to defend them. They're the plug. Yeah, Sam, I am. Iran did some serious damage on Tel Aviv. And I'm going to tell you right now, Sam, I'm rooting for Iran in this. And I hope Iran does turn around and level Israel. And I'm rooting for Trump too. And I hope Trump does everything that he needs to do to give Iran that green light, even if it means dropping a couple bombs on Iran so Iran can say, all right, we're going to retaliate against Israel, because nobody's going to help Israel. The European Union is weakened. Their militaries are garbage, and they won't be able to help Israel. Not against the Iranians, they won't. And the Americans are going to be too busy fighting their war in the Americas. And Israel is going to be left on their own to deal with Iran, Lebanon, Syria. And they're going to get their asses kicked. But let's get back to the video.
Again, I go back to the supreme leader, who does not sound like he's anxious to sit down in talks with President Trump as a country, as he's taunting him, calling him a tyrant who will be overthrown. How do you do that and think that President Trump is going to take that as, oh, yes, I should get to the table?
No, come on. We have engaged into negotiation with the U.S. several times with the permission of the supreme leader. Why you say that?
Well, just negotiate.
Let me tell you.
Unless you're telling me that the Ayatollah is not posting this.
Tell me, please wait. You know, we negotiated with the United States several times, and all of them turned into a very negative experience. In 2015, we negotiated for 2.5 years. We concluded a deal, and the United States decided to withdraw with no reason and with no justification. So why we should engage into negotiation with the United States, which means, in fact, you know, when United States talk about negotiation, it means they want dictation and not negotiation. So we have no good experience. This is a fact. Please understand.
Mr. Foreign Minister, on all of those points, the U.S. would say they came away from those talks saying that you were not pledging to do what you said you would do, and that every time they walked away from the table, they believed you were throwing it out the window. as far as enrichment and solutions for that, as far as ballistic missiles, solutions for that, and as far as your role in funding terrorists around the region. Now, I don't want to belabor this point, but the Supreme Leader posted, Mr. Foreign Minister, on X.
And you see how they keep blaming Iran for funding quote-unquote terrorists all around the region? That's another Zionist lie, because it's the Israelis funding terrorists all around the region.
Numerous times about a taunting for President Trump. He's 86 years old. We have not heard from him. Is the Supreme Leader doing well in Iran? Will we hear from the Supreme Leader in this case?
And you see how the foreign minister reacted when the guy said, "Oh, you're funding terrorism all over the world," and Brett Baer just kept talking. He's like, and the Iranian guy's like, "Why you say that? Why do you say that?" Because it's all a lie. But you see, we've only been given one side of the story from the Zionist media. They haven't given us both sides of the story. And now we're getting the Iranian side of the story. And it just so happens that the Iranian side of the story seems to make a lot more sense, and it seems to align more with what we've seen in past events.
He's doing well, and he is, in full control of the country, and people are supporting him, as everybody saw today in the funeral of those who were killed by terrorists, and 2 days ago in rally of Tehran and other cities.
Mr. Foreign Minister, by all accounts, on the outside and on the inside, when we can get it, the Iranian economy is in a free fall. That is what started a lot of these protests, despite you saying that this was started from the outside and from Israel and Mossad. Our reporting is that it was started by frustrated people with the economic situation and frustrated for years of oppression from the regime.
For 10 days, it was peaceful and it was tolerated by the government. But after that, we had 3 days of terrorism operation.
You said that, but now you're saying it's entirely peaceful.
Now,
Brett Baer, come on, you letting me down, bro. You're letting me down. I thought you were smarter than this. The man never said it was entirely peaceful. He was clear about it in the beginning, just like he said just now. For 10 days, it was peaceful. So you can say what you want about the Iranian economy, but the people were having discourse with their government. And then for 3 days, the Israelis stepped in with their terrorist operations. And Brett Baer just seems to keep downplaying, denying, and glossing over that fact, and just throwing out the typical George Bush Rhino Republican talking points. Iran's the biggest state sponsor of terrorism. You know, like the shit don't make no sense. But now that you listen to the Iranian side of things, it actually makes perfect sense. Because now we know what we know.
it is calm. There is no demonstration. There is no protest. It is for 4 days that everything is, calm.
Okay, so what do you tell, if you have a message for President Trump, who obviously is and has talked about and is considering some kind of action to help the protesters on the ground. If you have a message for him, what is the message?
My message is, do not repeat the same mistake that you did in June.
Boom, there it is. Did y'all catch that? Brett Baer said, what is your message to President Trump? And he said, do not repeat the same mistake you made in June. Remember, Iran has sleeper cells here in America too. They have operatives here in America too. They have the technology and the capabilities to attack us here in America too. And when Trump bombed those nuclear facilities, or those abandoned nuclear facilities in Iran back in June, it was broadcast through the media like Trump actually did something to Iran. So Iran responded by doing something to Tel Aviv. Now, the foreign minister is saying, don't make the same mistake you made in June. And there's all this aggressive posturing between Trump and the Ayatollah. Well, it seems like Trump is going to, quote unquote, make that same mistake. And then Iran is going to really show Israel what time it is. I think he just summed it all up right there. Let me run it back. Let me bounce back a couple of seconds so you guys can catch it again.
What is the message?
My message is, do not repeat the same mistake that you did in June. If you try a failed experience, you will get the same result. In June, you destroyed the facilities, the machines, but the technology cannot be bombed, and the determination also cannot be bombed. Now, Iran proved to be ready for negotiation, for diplomacy. We have proved that in the past 20 years, in 2015, in 2025, every time. But it was the US who always escaped from diplomacy, who cut the diplomacy and opted for war. My message is, between war and diplomacy is a better way, although we don't have any positive experience from the United States, but still diplomacy is much better than war. But
Mr. Foreign
it is
Minister,
up to the US president to decide.
Mr. Foreign Minister, your proxies have.
And I believe Trump is going to decide to drop some more bombs on Iran, and Iran is going to empty their arsenal on Israel. Because that's the war. Just like the U.S. military going to war with the drug cartels here in the Western Hemisphere is a war that needed to happen. Iran destroying Israel is another war that needs to happen. It's like one of these things, right? No sane person enjoys the thought of having to kill somebody, right? No sane person wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I think I'm gonna take somebody out today. Nobody does that. And even when those sane people are faced with situations where they're in the position to have to take somebody's life, they still try to de-escalate, like that cop with the gun drawn on the armed suspect that's coming at him with a knife. And he says, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife, because that cop doesn't want to shoot that person, but he ends up shooting him because he has to. Just like the ICE agent that shot that woman in Minneapolis. They didn't want to shoot the woman. They tried to arrest her until they were put in a position where one of them had to shoot. But almost every sane American at the same time believes in owning guns. And what are guns for? Shooting people, deleting people. So although we don't have it in our hearts to want to do this, we understand that there may come a time where we have to do it. So although we talk about peace and we don't want war, there are evil entities out there that are solely responsible for the vast majority of the evil that goes on in the world, and those entities need to be destroyed. And if it takes a war to destroy them, then so be it. Just like that burglar sneaking into your house and in the middle of the night while your kids are asleep needs to fucking die. That needs to happen. Well, guess what? You're going to make it happen. These are the wars that should have happened. When all the other wars were going on, this is where our military should have been. But they're there now. And I believe that right before the midterm elections is when Iran is going to move on Israel. Trump is going to move on Iran, and then Iran is going to move on Israel. And around the same time that's happening, the Doge dividend money is going to start hitting people's bank accounts. The tariff dividend money is going to start hitting people's bank accounts. And Nasara, the financial part of Nasara, is going to be initiated. And Americans are going to be too busy celebrating all this free money, all this money they're getting back from the government to even give a shit about Israel getting fucked up. It'll be the perfect distraction. Yes, Sam, I am. Israel are the liberals of the world. They are. They most certainly are. And you know what's funny? It's funny you say that, Sam, I am, because it's the Zionist liberals at the top that are putting out these talking points and the brainwashing and have all these dumbed down white liberals in the hive mind where they go out and they attack people. And when they get justice brought to them, they cry foul. Just like that woman in the car. She hit the ICE agent with her car. And when she got killed, everybody want to cry foul. These are Zionist tactics. That's where those tactics come from. So yes, Israel are the liberals of the world because it's the Israel propaganda through the Zionist media that turns these mentally weak individuals into raging, hateful liberals. Leftards is what I call them.
Largely been destroyed. Your nuclear program, it's called by the president, obliterated. You say the technology is still there. Your ballistic missile program is arguably on its way back, and it's being threatened to be attacked again by both Israel and the U.S. If you were to offer concessions to get back to the table, to talk, what would those concessions look like today?
The concessions is exactly as we did in 2015 in the JCPOA. We can make sure and build confidence about the peaceful nature of our nuclear program to make sure that it is peaceful and would remain peaceful forever. And in return, we expect that the sanctions are lifted. Ballistic missiles is our means of defense and the most reliable means of defense, and it is not negotiable. Why we should negotiate on our ballistic missiles when we have when we need them for our security and for our defense? Proxies, I think it's a wrong, it's a mistake to call them proxies. We don't have proxies in the region. They are.
You've been funding.
No, they are movements who are fighting with occupation, who are fighting for their rights, and we only support them. We only support them. They are not doing any job for us. They are fighting. They are fighting for their own, causes, and we support their cause.
Well, Mr. Foreign Minister, we appreciate the time. There are a lot of people concerned and want you to say that the Iranian regime's killing of protesters will stop.
I think you have to find the...
You see how Brett Baer tried to pigeonhole him into going along with the lie, talking about the Iranian regime's killing of protesters. They're not the ones killing the damn protesters. Why do you keep fucking telling that goddamn lie, Fox News? Fox News. Stop trying to spread that lie. Look at all these people. They got pictures of Ayatollah and shit. That's his people. He's killing the foreign infiltrators. That's who they're killing. They're killing the foreign enemies. And I believe that Iran will ditch their ballistic missile program. And you know how they're going to ditch it? They're going to take all the motherfuckers armed with warheads and drop them on Israel. And Trump's not going to do a goddamn thing about it because he's going to be too busy dealing with Mexico. Yep. Oh, and when the green and this Trump Israel, Iran Israel stuff is going to be the end of Israel. Israel is cooked. They're already on their way out the door, and I think they know it. That's why they're down there in Argentina setting fires, and that's why their media over here is trying to push this lie and this propaganda against the Ayatollah. Because they're cooked and they know they're cooked. They're trying to get this man to push the lie. He ain't going to push the lie because it's a fucking lie.
Elements who made these killings outside of Iran. And there are many, evidences to that. We can show you. So it is all a kind of Israeli plot, which is now failed. And I hope that President Trump would not build on that failed attempt by Israelis.
And will the Ayatollah, will we hear from him? Besides the tweets taunting the president?
Well, I think I have already answered that.
All right, so that's the end of that interview. I see some pretty interesting comments. Agarkhan said military judges going to Minneapolis. Perhaps arrests coming soon. Maybe, because I've heard the chatter about the Insurrection Act, Trump invoking the Insurrection Act and bringing in the military to take care of that bullshit over there in Minneapolis. So this can go This can go either way. This can go either way. But I believe what's going to happen is Trump is going to attack Iran, and Iran is going to completely destroy Israel. And the whole world is going to be shocked and surprised. And Trump's going to give all his condolences and, his friends, and he's going to make the threats and say, oh, we're going to avenge our friends and whatever. But Israel's done. They're finished. They're cooked. Nobody's going to help them. And then after Israel is cooked, Russia, I believe, is going to overrun the Ukraine finally, and they're going to move into Europe, into the European Union nations. And the European Union is going to capitulate, and they're not going to fight the Russians, because on the other side of the pond, they'll have Trump beefing with them about Greenland. And I believe all this Greenland talk is about establishing a trade route that's already been agreed upon between the U.S. and Russia. But the European Union hadn't been a part of that agreement. So they're going to try to stop Russia. They're going to try to keep control of Greenland in order to prevent that trade route between the U.S. and Russia. But they're going to fail because they can't fight two wars. And once Trump starts threatening them and saying, I'm going to go to war with you, they're going to back down. So there you have it, folks. The Iranian foreign minister actually just told you the exact same thing that I've been telling you. The Iranian foreign minister told you the same thing that Citizen Man's been telling you forever. The Israeli Mossad agents are the sleeper cells that are going to turn up in these countries, start killing civilians, and they're going to blame whoever they need to get out of the way for the killing of the civilians. That's what they're going to do. I think the mainstream media have been pushing all this right-wing extremist crap, white supremacist crap, white nationalist crap. They've been pushing all this shit because they were going to use Caucasian individuals or Caucasian-looking individuals who are part of these sleeper cells to go out and commit these crimes and probably dress like Trump supporters to get the whole world in America to turn against Trump. But it's not going to happen because the Trump administration already knows their playbook. They already know what they plan to do, and they already know how to thwart it. But you see, most people don't really understand this Iran, Israel, United States situation because they have the wrong impression about Trump. They don't understand the nature of the beast when it comes to Trump. So they base what they think Trump is going to do off of what past presidents have done. But they just don't get it. That's what it is. So when I say Israel is cooked, they are fried. They are cooked. And Iran is going to roast them while Trump is skiing in Greenland. So since I talked about this on the last live stream and gave you my breakdown, I wanted to show you guys this video so you can see that I'm not making this stuff up. But there's people out there that genuinely believe that it's all made up because they don't know no better. They're a victim of their own ignorance, so to speak. But anyway, guys, I do appreciate y'all being here. Let's see. We got one Cash App from my brother Antara. I know it's an off night, so I wasn't really expecting nothing. I didn't even put up the promo slides because it's an off night. But you know what I'm going to have to start doing? Whether it's an on night or an off night, I'm going to have to promote. Shout out to Antara for the Cash App. Appreciate that. my good brother. Let me check the Citizen Man Cash App because I got a couple people that hit me over there, so I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Okay, and I still miss people, so don't don't feel bad if I don't shout you out. I just maybe you just got overlooked in the fray. You know what I'm saying? But I hope you guys learned something today. The Starlink situation is to mark the infiltrators. And that's why the Iranian regime is going after people using Starlink. But anyway, I'm getting tired, getting worn out. This shit is stressful. But I'm glad that I took the time to watch that Fox News video and listen to that foreign minister confirm literally everything that I was saying. I love that. And I hope you guys loved and enjoyed it too, because now there's no way to deny who the real enemy is. So we all know who our enemies are, but we don't all know who our friends are, because Trump is our friend. And he's not being our friend by propping us up in this corrupt system. He's being our friend by trying to eradicate this corrupt system, decentralize this corrupt system, so we, the people, can have more freedom and fairness. And that's the way it should be when you have a friend in office. Sam I Am says, Citizen Man, just like that Jake Lang guy, dude's a plant. Don't know if you heard of Jake Lang, but Jake is definitely not MAGA. Is Jake Lang the guy with the big ass gauges in his ear that was plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer back in 2020? Is that the dude? No, that's Brandon Caserta. Sorry. I don't know who Jake Lang is, but I do know about the Caesar Sayat guy, another fake Trump supporter that sent fake bombs to Obama in them. They do that. These lefties, they do that. They pose as Trump supporters and then they go do some fuck shit, and then we find out they're not Trump supporters. Michael W. says he screwed himself when he kidnapped Maduro. Well, here's the thing. He didn't exactly kidnap Maduro. Maduro gave himself up. That's number one. And he actually freed the people of Venezuela when he got Maduro out of there. So I'm not sure how he screwed himself. Screwed himself how? Who's going to do anything to him about it? Nobody's going to do shit to him. It's Donald Trump with Donald Trump's mentality and attitude. And not only that, it's backed up by the full force of the United States military. So how did he screw himself exactly? Did you know that he seized all the Venezuelan oil and said he's going to use the oil money to give back to the Venezuelan people and to benefit the American people? So we're going to benefit because we'll get cheap gas, and the Venezuelan people will benefit because they'll actually be getting paid for their oil as opposed to Maduro keeping all the money. So I'm not sure. He says, now the world and the people of Venezuela see America as a bully. No, that's what the fake news is trying to tell you to see America as. The people in Venezuela are celebrating. The people in Venezuela are glad. You remember when the migrant caravans were coming up here? Not only was it the Tren de Aragua gang members from the prison coming up here, but they were thousands and thousands of Venezuelan civilians who couldn't make a living in Venezuela coming up here, and that's because of Maduro. He carried on Hugo Chavez's policies, which destroyed the Venezuelan economy. The people of Venezuela don't like Chavez. I mean, not Chavez, Maduro. They don't like either one of them. And Juan Guaido actually won the election in 2019 in Venezuela. The people voted for him. But Maduro, like he did in 2013, stole the election. So the people of Venezuela, they don't see Trump as a bully. They see Trump as a hero. It's just us in America with this Zionist media feeding us a bunch of bullshit are telling us that they see Trump as a bully. That's not the case at all. It's absolutely not the case. And just because our media is telling us to see Trump as a bully, that has no bearing on how the lives of the Venezuelan people is going to be affected. And it ain't just the people of Venezuela that are glad that Trump got rid of Maduro. It's the people of Guyana, which is a neighboring country just to the west of Venezuela. They share a border. Because what was happening was Maduro's soldiers were sneaking over the Guyanese border in the middle of the night and robbing and killing the gold miners out there in the jungle. Things got so bad economically under Maduro while Maduro was stealing gold and killing Guyanese gold miners. The country of Guyana was shipping food across the border to Venezuela because they couldn't feed themselves. And they couldn't feed themselves because Maduro's economic policies were strangling the country. And he was selling the oil for much. I got this part wrong. I said he was selling it cheaper because that's usually what you do with stolen shit. But he was selling it at a higher price point, which means he was selling less of it at a slower rate. And not only that, he was not reinvesting the money back into the country. He was pocketing it for himself. So now Trump is going to get the oil prices back down to market rates. So it's going to sell faster, and he's going to pour the money right back into Venezuela. Our mainstream media is a very powerful psychological weapon. In fact, it's one of the most powerful psychological weapons on earth. And Malcolm X said this back in the 60s, and he knew it all too well even back then. And this is what he said, Michael W. He said, the mainstream media, the media has the power to make you love your oppressors and hate the ones trying to free you. And that's why the mainstream media is pushing that narrative, because they're trying to get the American people and the Venezuelan people to love their oppressor Maduro and hate Trump who freed them. Malcolm X said this, and that man's been long dead for decades, and his words still ring true today. Under Maduro, he was allowing the cartels to run shit. Under Maduro, and when he was allowing the cartels to run shit, extortion was happening at a very high rate. Legitimate businessmen were being extorted and killed under Maduro. The Venezuelan government was working hand in hand with the drug cartels. So the people who were victims of those cartels couldn't even get justice. So yeah, they're glad he's out of there. Remember, this is the same mainstream media that told us COVID was real and people were dying from COVID, but everybody that died from COVID died in the confines of a hospital, isolated from anybody that could advocate for them. They were mass murdered. This is the same mainstream media that told you a vaccine that came out in 12 months was safe and effective when it hadn't even undergone proper testing. This is the same mainstream media that tells you little boys can be little girls and little girls can be little boys. This is the same mainstream media that only shows you one angle of the shooting in Minneapolis with that Ice Watch warrior woman, when there's two other angles that prove without a shadow of a doubt that she hit that man with the car. So just because you hear that in the media, you're going to hear it on social media being parroted by people who are there to push the mainstream narrative. So you think in your mind, the mainstream media and social media are two separate entities. So if I'm hearing this narrative on the mainstream media and I go to social media and I hear the exact same narrative, it must be true. That's the psychological play, because they planted their operatives on social media to basically parrot their talking points and mirror their same ideology on social media, where people had gone to get away from the mainstream media propaganda. They literally have paid propagandists on the internet to push their propaganda. So you'll hear it in the mainstream media. You'll hear it on social media. But you know where you won't hear it? You won't hear it over here. You'll hear the truth. Kobe says, who runs mainstream if Republicans is in charge right now? The mainstream media has nothing to do with the actual political parties themselves logistically. The government does not, we do not have state-run media in America. The media corporations are private entities, but they just so happen to be private entities that align politically with the Democratic Party. So they help the Democratic Party with their misinformation campaigns. They help the Democratic Party with pushing their propaganda and their agenda, but they are not regulated or controlled by the government. Republicans are in charge right now, but the people running mainstream media right now are the same people that were running it under Bush, under Clinton, under Obama, hell, as far back as JFK. So just because Republicans are in office right now does not have any bearing on the mainstream media being any less shitty. They have the right to continue to be as shitty as they want to be. And you know what? They're doing it. They're fucking doing it. Michael W. says, don't think he'll go through all that just to stop drug cartel and give people back their freedom. Give people back their freedoms. Well, you don't think so, but we're seeing it. We're watching it. That's what he's doing. But it's not just about the drugs, though. That's the thing, Michael W. It's not just about the drugs. Venezuela is the headquarters for the electronic voting machines that they use here in the United States to rig elections. And the Venezuelan government was now under Maduro, was actively involved in manipulating our elections here in America. This is why so many people were saying, oh, don't vote because your votes don't count. It's that type of fraud that was making our votes not count. So it's beyond just the drug cartels, right? The people getting their freedom is kind of like a side effect of it. Now, here's the thing. Under Maduro, Trump used the military against Maduro because, of course, law enforcement can't be trusted. But he used the military against Maduro because Maduro committed 3 acts of war against the United States. The first act of war he committed against the United States was helping Dominion Voting Systems, which is the name of the company that runs the electronic voting machines, help them steal the election for Joe Biden in 2020. That was the first act of war. Usurp the votes of the American people. That was the first act of war. Second act of war was when the Democrats got into power, they opened up the border. And with the border being open, excuse me, the country became compromised. So the first act of war was helping the Americans helping the Democrats steal the election. Once the Democrats opened the border, the second act of war was flooding the country with dope through the open borders. Once that started to happen, the third act of war became flooding the country with prisoners who were let out of prison in his country and sent up to the United States to establish these drug distribution networks. While all this was going on, the trafficking of children and adults alike was at an all-time high in that region of the world. So when you say, I don't think he'll go through all that just to stop drug cartels and give people back their freedom, well, let's assume that's a true statement. He wouldn't go through all that for that. But what if there's more reasons than just that? Perhaps he'll go through all of that for that purpose. Shutting down the human trafficking, avenging America for the 3 acts of war committed against America by Maduro, shutting down the human trafficking. Did I say shut down the human trafficking? Yeah. Shut down not only the drug trafficking, but the human trafficking. Avenging the American people for the acts of war carried out by Nicolas Maduro against the United States of America. And while Trump's getting all the illegals out, he's ensuring the safety and security of the American people. So yes, he is going through all that just to give people back their freedom. And they're getting their freedom. You know what I'm saying? But guys, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. And I don't know if you can tell, but my eyes are getting droopy. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down and get up out of here. I do appreciate you guys being here. It's an off night, and I didn't expect to see this many people show up. But I do appreciate you guys for stopping through. Shout out to my one and only Cash App for the night. Appreciate that, my brother. Thank you for that support. And anybody else that wants to support the show, I'll shout you out on the next show. So don't be ashamed or hesitate to donate. Don't hesitate to donate. And if you're not in a financial position to donate, I don't want you to feel pressured into thinking that you got to give me your last, because you most certainly do not. But if you're balling, give your boy $1, man. Show me some love. So I do appreciate you guys being here. Like, some of you guys came in hot like you were trolling, but you ended up asking pretty good questions that allow me to elaborate and explain things better. So shout out to y'all for that. Michael W., I don't know if you saw my previous live stream to this one, but in that live stream, I break down Operation Warp Speed and how that ended up being what was best for the American people. Because without Operation Warp Speed, shit would have been a lot worse. So it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but you seem to be one of those people that at the very least is skeptical about Trump and his motives. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen, because I can understand when you're lacking certain bits of information that the media or social media or wherever your information sources are, when you're lacking those certain facts that change the entire context of the story, I can understand why you would take the position that you take, even though you disagree with it. But I thank you, and I appreciate the fact that you're open-minded enough to listen. And to the rest of you guys too, Kobe and Donnie Trumpstein and you guys. I appreciate that you guys taking the time to listen and hear me out. And I hope it made sense to you. I hope it made sense to you, because that's all I'm here to do. That's all I'm here to do. So, and make a couple of dollars at the same time. So hit the Cash App. But anyway, I got to go, guys. Appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate the love. Appreciate the support. And I will see you on the next one. We'll be back tomorrow night. We got to go live. It's Friday night. We got to go live Friday night. So I'm pretty sure there'll be some more events in between now and then that we're going to be able to discuss. And excuse me. And I want to do a call-in show. I want to have you guys call in and chop it up with me, man. I want y'all to, share your opinions, because there seems to be a lot of opposing opinions here tonight, and that's cool. That's cool. Let's come up and let's have some smoke. I'm cool. I'm with it, man. I'm with all the smoke. So see you guys on the next one. Citizen Man, out.